this is Francis. I'm here with Joe. We're with 4Boxing News. We're here today to talk about Premier Boxing Champion's debut on NBC. The premiere featured two fights. The first fight was Adrien Broner versus John Molina Jr. The second fight was Keith Thurman versus Robert Guerrero.
Let's talk about the first fight, Adrien Broner versus John Molina. Adrien Broner gets the unanimous decision win. What'd you think?
I thought that was a good decision. I don't really think that John Molina put up much of a fight. It was a slow first round, a very boring first round actually, with Molina looking very inactive. He landed one punch in the first round. The second round, he just didn't counter at all. He threw his first combination, but I thought Molina's punches just lacked confidence. I don't think he had a game plan walking in there.
He really looked like he wet the bed. He went there, the bright lights were on, it's on NBC, and the guy just laid an egg. That guy looked so nervous, so cautious, and that's not the way he usually wins fights.
I think in order to beat Adrien Broner, you have to play Marcos Maidana's game. I think if he would have just been more confident in his punches and through flurries of combinations throughout the fight, he could have caught Broner with something big. But to be honest, he didn't look like a dangerous fighter at all. He didn't even look like a professional fighter.
He looked terrible. When he was throwing punches, he would just duck down, head down, and just a wild haymaker right hand. And that was it. He had nothing else to offer.
He had absolutely nothing else to offer. And he had a lot of opportunities to pin Adrien Broner against the ropes and catch him with something big, but it seemed like he would just let him out when he could have landed some of the biggest shots throughout the fight.
Yeah, he would get close to Broner, get within striking range, and just not throw a punch. It was maddening.
He was definitely Molina was definitely at a disadvantage in terms of his footwork and the hand speed, but if he had just been a little bit more, not even a little bit, a lot more aggressive and more active through the fight, it would have been more exciting. To be honest, I think this fight just put a lot of people to sleep, and I didn't agree at all with some of the commentating with Sugar Ray Leonard stating that Broner was upset because he was trying to figure out Molina. Well, what is he trying to figure out? He has no game plan.
It did sure sound like that Sugar Ray Leonard really wanted to like Molina, but as the fight went on, there was nothing for Sugar Ray Leonard to jump on with Molina. He kept praising him for hanging in there, but anyone could really hang in there. When you don't throw punches, Broner threw twice as many punches as Molina. And then Molina whined at the end of the fight that Broner didn't trade with him. But the guy throws twice as many punches than you. How could you say that?
I was astounded that he could even say that, just because I mean, we all know how Adrien Broner fights. If you've seen any of his previous fights, he's definitely not the kind of fighter to stand in front of you and, have this heavy-handed exchange. He's just a lot more elusive than other fighters. So I was, kind of asking myself, has Molina even watched any of the tapes? Any fights that Broner had prior to even walking in the ring tonight? I couldn't believe that he was upset that he didn't exchange with him. So,
well, it did sound like his corner had a game plan and Molina just abandoned it, because every round it sounded like they were telling him throw more, punch more, go at him, and he just wouldn't. And in fact, how great was that look his trainer gave between the 11th and 12th round, where he just looks back at the camera and tells John, you need a knockout.
I agree. He should have definitely won for the knockout and just swung for the fences. Somewhere around rounds 3 and 4, it looked like he made a more consistent effort and was actually looking for some openings and throwing some combinations, but he just faded in the later rounds. And, he couldn't compete with Broner's footwork and the hand speed. But, he also wasn't countering, which made his performance all the while more disappointing. If he had actually won tonight, it would have opened a lot more doors for him. And even if he hadn't won and put on and actually tried harder, I think that it would have opened more doors for Molina in terms of his pugilistic career. But unfortunately, it was just an utter and boring disappointment.
And it hurt Broner. Broner gets the win on network TV, on NBC. He called himself Mr. NBC. And then he goes on NBC And it's a boring fight. The crowd was booing him. You win the fight and the crowd boos you. I don't know that NBC is going to want him back on TV.
I agree. Oh, I completely agree. All
right, let's go to the next fight.
Sure.
Have Keith Thurman versus Robert Guerrero. An exciting back and forth fight. Keith Thurman was in control most of the way. Robert Guerrero gets dropped in round 9, dusts himself off, and for the rest of the fight just goes at Thurman. He loses, but I think he won a lot of fans just with the effort he put in at the end of the fight. What did you think of the fight?
I thought this was an amazing fight. It was intense from the very beginning. Thurman definitely had better hand speed and better footwork than Guerrero.
I thought Thurman looked real good. He was moving around well, throwing combinations.
Yes.
Up until the last few rounds. He started running too much in the last few rounds.
When he was getting booed, yeah, I agree. But Thurman is a multi-dimensional fighter. He's a great brawler, but he also has great footwork, works angles very well. It looked like Guerrero, he was just trying to stalk Thurman, follow him throughout the ring to try to land some big shots, but Thurman was just too elusive, would change angles every time he threw combinations. And that made him just very exciting to watch. Guerrero, I just admire for his heart. He has amazing heart. And, I'm not really sure that a lot of fighters would have been able to recover from that knockdown. Because he was down.
He was hurt.
Yes.
But he did the right thing. He went down. He took a few seconds, smiled at the referee, let the referee know he was going to get up. Took a little bit of time, got up before the 10 count. Survived the round, and it was tough because Thurman went after him. Then the minute break came, he came back out, and he came out ready to come back. And you gotta admire a guy like that.
Yes, definitely. Guerrero had some nice timing. He landed a few big shots. I think he knew he was at a disadvantage in terms of the speed and the footwork. But the timing of the shots was actually very impressive. I also think that he would have won the fight had he been a little bit more active. I know that Sugar Ray Leonard had stated that he could have, he should have been more active while he was in the inside, but I don't think he had the hand speed to pull it off, to just throw 6, 7, 8 punch combinations if that's what Sugar Ray Leonard was expecting.
Yeah, I don't know that Guerrero has the skills to beat Thurman. Thurman looked good. Guerrero's a tough guy, and he had success when he pinned him up against the ropes, but I think Thurman is just a better fighter. I don't think that would come if Guerrero had a different strategy. I think that would come still the same.
Yes, I think the counterpunching, if he did a little bit more counterpunching, and used the timing more to his advantage, that maybe he would have gotten a lot more shots on Guerrero. But in the later rounds, it looked like Guerrero just got sluggish. I don't blame him at all because that was a terrible knockdown.
It was tough.
That was very tough.
Thurman was throwing bombs, and Guerrero was eating them. He only went down once. There was a lot of shots. I thought he could have gone down more than that.
Oh, I thought so too. I mean, Guerrero ate some very solid and heavy-handed punches tonight. So hats off to Guerrero because he put on an amazing performance.
And you talked earlier about how Broner won, but he got booed, whereas Guerrero lost and got cheered because of his effort towards the end of the fight.
Oh, the moment he got knocked down, he came forward, more, I thought, later in the fight after that knockdown than he did previously.
Yeah, that knockdown woke him up.
Yeah, Guerrero has a fighter's heart. He's definitely a warrior. He's always fun to watch. But Thurman, of course, I'm a big fan of Thurman as well. I'm hoping to see, both of these warriors soon in the ring.
Well, Thurman looks like he's the real deal because Guerrero was a tough challenge and Thurman dominated the fight. A lot of good options for Thurman going forward. Gets a big win on network TV. I'm sure Al Haymon is happy, and I see a lot of bright things for that guy's future.
Oh, me too. Me too, definitely.
All right, let's talk about Premier Boxing Champions, the broadcast. What did you think of Marv Alberts and the whole crew in general? We had Marv Alberts and Sugar Ray Leonard doing the play-by-play. I know you were a little critical of Sugar Ray.
I didn't agree with a lot of his commentating. He seemed to think the opposite of what I was thinking.
He stumbled over some of his words too a little bit, and I think misspoke a few times.
Sure. I would have liked to see more involvement from Layla Ali.
She seemed almost bored. I like the fact that her and BJ Flores were in the corners giving you the inside information on what was happening in the corners. And when BJ would give his update, he seemed into it. And when Layla gave her update, it was, ho-hum, kind of boring.
She did seem kind of bored. I like that they had a woman in there attempting to do the commentating because, of course, I am a woman. And, I do have boxing experience, and so does Layla Ali. So it would have been nice to see her, contribute a little bit more input throughout the fight. I know Marv Albert was running the show, and he's great. He's a lot like Jim Lampley. He uses his voice well to dictate the tone of the fight, which I really liked a lot. In terms of some of the other commentators, what did you think?
I thought it was a typical NBC broadcast. If you watch the football that they have, it was similar setup to what they do on Sunday Night Football. What did you think of the entrances? The fighters' entrance, a little different than...
I think the fighters' entrances were anticlimactic.
They're kind of boring.
Yeah, they were kind of boring. It was disappointing. There's just something about them standing there on the stage.
It was funny because you could tell the fighters didn't know what to do. They get there, they stand up in the stage, they get announced, and then the camera's in their face, and now they have to stand there for probably 12 awkward seconds as the camera circles around.
Exactly.
And they got to walk to the side and walk down a ramp, which almost looks like a handicap ramp.
I didn't want to say that. Yes.
And they all had the same music when they come in. They don't have their own entrance songs like some of the other shows.
Yeah.
I like having their own entrance songs, and when it's Gennady Golovkin and you hear Seven Nation Army, and the crowd gets excited, and you see them make their way to the ring with a big crowd, and instead here they were just by themselves, and it was the crowd's not cheering, everyone's just staring, waiting for him to get to the ring, and just wasn't a good way to hype the crowd.
The entrance music was anticlimactic as well. There's just something about seeing these guys just stand in a tunnel waiting to enter the ring, seeing these fans high-five them. I think HBO does it the best, but that's just my opinion.
And then no ring girls.
Yeah, where are the ring girls? They're huge.
I like a little eye candy.
Hey, I like it too. I think they add a lot to the broadcast. Some people think that they have a very limited role in the in boxing or in even in MMA, but I think that they have a huge role because ideally they know how to promote the fight.
It's good for the live audiences. Give the guys at who are in the crowd something to cheer for between rounds. And
and if they ever do live signings or anything like that, it's like they're really the face of whatever they're holding their cards for, or whatever organization or entity they're holding their cards for. I think there's definitely a public relations aspect behind the ring girl, and I think it needs to be utilized more. It's kind of saddening to see that so many people find ring girls to be completely useless when that's just not really.
And the UFC does a great job. Ariane and Brittany Palmer have had a ton of success being the ring girls there.
I would love to see them more in boxing, for sure.
I agree.
For sure.
So for Premier Boxing Champions, not a bad debut. Although if you think about it, if the goal was to hype up Broner and Thurman, I'm not so sure that they did. Broner left getting booed. Even Thurman got some boos. So if that was the plan, I don't know if it worked. But overall, it was, I would say, a successful event.
Oh, I think it was definitely a successful event. I mean, they can't really predict how certain fighters are going to perform. I mean,
and that first fight was kind of a lemon. But the second fight made up for it because the second fight was really good.
Oh, completely. Yeah, I totally agree. The second fight was just amazing. So looking forward to seeing their second broadcast.
Yeah, Al Haymon's plan is coming together. So we got a lot of boxing from Al in the next few months. It'll be very interesting.
I like what he's doing for boxing. I think it's great. I think it's wonderful that he's purchased all of this network time to promote the sport, to put on some more fights. And it's also free boxing, so it's not like you have to pay to watch these fights. You can just watch them on, local network television, which is awesome.
Yeah, it's going to be great. I think the next few months are going to be really good for boxing. And Al Haymon's had this plan for a few years now, so now it's coming together, and hopefully it'll be very good for the sport.
Awesome.
All right, well, that about wraps it up for here today. For Joe and Francis, we'll be signing off. If you want to check out any boxing updates, check us out at Twitter at 4boxingnews. Or at 4boxingnews, and check out our website at 4boxingnews.com. Thank you very much.
Bye.